Welcome to GD Gyan. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell button.
Hello everyone, welcome to GD Gyan. So last week we have covered EC2, EBS and other types of instances. So we have asked few questions. So we'll start with answer from the previous week question answer. The first one was name the types of AMI provided by AWS. So basically wanted to ask what types of virtualization they have. So two types, HVM and PV. If we reboot EBS backed instance, the data will remove or no? No, it will not remove, it will stay there. We have seen that. EBS is encrypted during the EC2 launch. If it is not encrypted, can we do that later? Yes, it can be encrypted during the configuration, and even not, we can encrypt later point also. That we have shown in the previous episode or session as well. In case we need to upgrade or change the EBS capacity or storage capacity, can we do that? Yes, we can do that without stopping the EC2 instance, and it will not hamper your EC2 instance performance as well. That we have seen. EBS volume can be copied within the same region, but it can be copied to different region. So wanted to understand whether we can copy EBS volume from one region to another region. Yes, we can copy. So it is not like that the EBS volume you have that would be stayed forever for that same region. We have discussed that in detail in our previous session. Hope you all have understood. Let's go back to the main topic now. Welcome to the fifth episode of Learn AWS Quickly for your Solution Architect exam. Today we are going to cover this the broad index that we are going to cover today. Let's have a quick look and then move to the next slides. Okay, so I tried to create a tabular format for all the database that AWS currently provide the support and how they look like, what are their properties. Let's just quickly get into that. Coming back to relational and non-relational database, right? So relational database, they have 6 types of database: MySQL, PostgreSQL, MariaDB, Oracle, SQL Server, Aurora. Aurora is something that AWS's own database, which is a combination of MySQL and PostgreSQL. However, it's high-end, commercial, cost-effective DB, which is better than MySQL, even better than PostgreSQL. So AWS recommend, if you are using Aurora, recommend this one because it's fully managed by AWS, and it has all those fault tolerance and performance improvement capability that everybody can look for any database. Let's get into the other one. I have tried to give some basic parameter which I felt everybody should remember when they're going for exam, though you don't need to remember any number or anything to clear your solution architect exam. Let's get into this thing. So multi-AZ, read replica, serverless, type of DB, retention period, latency during the backup, encryption. So understand this thing. So OLTP and OLAP. Understand this two concepts first. OLAP, online analytics processing, OLTP, online transaction processing. So what does that mean? OLAP is something that complex query. For example, that if I wanted to know, if suppose I'm running a retail shop and I wanted to know that globally I have 1,000 stores, I wanted to know that each of the store in every season, what are the top 5 brand they sell, they have sold for last 5 years, and what is the prediction for another 5 years that I should be buying according to market research. So it's a very complex kind of query. Similarly, for transaction processing, anything you try to search, get me the student roll number, get me the highest scoring student details, all those things, or highest scoring employee or employee of the year for this month. So those are transaction processing. All are relational DB. All our relational DB fall under that OLTP. So OLAP is for the database warehousing, which is Redshift. So if you look into that, Redshift doesn't have multi-AZ. So multi-AZ is for fault tolerance. So what does that mean? I have that in detailed discussion on the next slide. So anyway, it means that your database is backed up into two different availability zone so that you can ensure your fault tolerance. However, Redshift is a very good data warehousing, like we have Oracle Hyperion SQRS, but it doesn't provide multi-AZ as of now, as of till date. Read Replica to improve your performance, having the same copy of your DB available to improve the performance, like I mentioned. And as you can understand, serverless by name. So serverless, as the name suggests, whether you have to configure a server to run that particular database, or you don't have to configure a server. So relational database, you can see all are not serverless. So you have to basically configure a server, or you need a VM to run that RDS instance. However, Aurora is a serverless, and your non-relational DB is a serverless DynamoDB. So what does that mean? It doesn't need, so for RDS also you don't need to manage the server, but still you need a VM to back up your relational database. So that is the concept. We'll go much more detail when we cover Lambda, but for now you understand this is a serverless type of protocol that they use. They do not have server, right? So non-relational DB, DynamoDB, they have. So let's look into the relational DB quickly. Multi-AZ, all of them support multi-AZ, but I marked Aurora as a in blue color. I'll come to that later. Read replica, every DB has a read replica except SQL Server. Serverless, none of them are serverless except Aurora DB. OLTP, they support retention period for all of them. It's almost 1 to 35 days. Latency, so for every relational DB, if you update, if you take backup, if you change any parameter, it is going to give you a latency into your input output read operation. Aurora doesn't do that. All of the database is having a encryption method, KMS, and for non-relational DB, DynamoDB, we have AES 256 as well. Now let's look into this Aurora, why we kept blue, because it's fully managed by Amazon. So they maintain their own multi-AZ, own read replica serverless method. You do not have to take care of anything. They have their own protocol. You just get a database when you configure. For other cases, you have to define all the option, where you want multi-AZ, how many read replica you want, all those things you have to do that. That's why Aurora is also called serverless. Coming back to the non-relational DB, DynamoDB, as you can see, I have given a small JSON to understand. DynamoDB is basically a key value pair. So anything you type in the social media, any games, when you play any IoT device, for example, Raspberry Pi or something, which is connecting with different sensor data, right? So they do also pass some data with a key value pair, but it doesn't mean that every device will send the same information. For example, I have a smart home where I have a television attached to Google Chromecast, I have a smart light, I have Alexa, I have smart speaker, and some of the smart sensors like sensing the light, how bright the brightness of the light, all those things. So every device is passing to my Raspberry Pi, my controller, or my microprocessor the data. They are sending in a key value pair, but they are not sending the exact same number of key and same number of element, right? For example, here in the relational DB, I have ID, name, address, location, but for next ID, I may not have an address or may not have a landmark. So that is the beauty of this relational and non-relational database, right? So relational is a conventional database, non-relational, it's anything that we are doing these days, happening, social media, gaming, IoT, they are using DynamoDB kind of a non-relational. DynamoDB is AWS product here, which they are using. Multi-AZ, they do support multi-AZ. I missed that. Yes, they have read replica. They are serverless. You don't have to manage this thing. It's a NoSQL database, and it is retention period is 48 hours. So time to leave TTL stands for that. Data warehouse, we discussed that, and next is, it's not a database, Elasticache, which is in-memory DB they call it. So it is to improve your web application data. For example, that suppose I am running Facebook. Facebook is something that which is I own, right? So I have that Facebook data. Now people are looking for the trending news on particular hashtag or particular information, right? Like for example, the COVID situation right now, or the cyclone which is happening in India, West Bengal, right? So those are the few data that people are looking for it, that how their friends, family are doing and everything on that message, right? So these are the commonly asked or commonly searched data, so that I want to be cached somewhere so that it will improve the performance. So for that, they have a different type of mechanism called Elasticache, which is having two type, Memcache and Redis. Memcache is a simple one. You do the simple type of things, and Redis is the advanced one, which multi-AZ, read replica. They do have backup, restore, and everything that you expect, like encryption and everything, that kind of every possible things are there in Redis. So hope you understand the relational, non-relational data warehouse and in-memory Elasticache. So there will be a lot of question on Elasticache. So to improve your web application performance, you can use Elasticache. So you have to understand the case study. It only can be helpful. It is not helpful for every data stored in the DB. So say if somebody is asking that I wanted to improve my website performance, can I use Elasticache? It's not like that. You only can Elasticache incorporated with a DB when you are trying to store some of the commonly searched item, not everything. So I have that in detail how you can improve your performance. But for now, you understand this thing, Elasticache. It's going to be a quick and easy topic for your question. Let's go to the next slide. So I have tried to give a different database there, different parameters which you should remember before going into the exam. RDS, Relational Database, they run on VM. It's not serverless except Aurora. However, we cannot SSH into the VM, we cannot manage, we cannot maintain for any of the 6 database, though it's not serverless. Okay, it is done by AWS or Amazon. All the replica, backup, snapshot are encrypted if your DB is encrypted. So if anything, your database is encrypted, it should be encrypted, all your snapshot and every replica. Understand this point, and everything be backed up into S3. That also we should remember. Aurora is one of the RDS, but I have a special wanted to mention it here in a differently, apart from other database. Like, it is a combination of MySQL and PostgreSQL. We discussed that, right? And it is a 5 times faster than MySQL and 3 times faster than PostgreSQL. I mentioned that it is a fully managed DB, and Amazon itself takes care of their high availability or fault tolerance part. So it maintains 2 copies in each of the AZ and in minimum of 3 AZ. Suppose you have a region with 3 AZ, it will take 2 copies of the backup for each in each of the AZ, 6 copies of your database. It self-healed properly and fully managed. So AWS, Amazon takes care of this thing. They have 3 types of replica: Aurora replica, MySQL replica, PostgreSQL replica. So it supports its own nature of replication. Suppose MySQL, as it has the MySQL feature as well, and PostgreSQL as well. Replication in region and cross region doesn't support. So whatever replication you are doing, you have to do it in the same region as the database is hosted. You cannot do that in cross region. Remember this thing, very important point. They will not ask you this question directly, however there will be indication on some of the case studies. Aurora snapshot can be shared with other AWS account as well. Automated backup is turned on by default. So it is a fully managed database, faster, and recommended by AWS as well. Coming back to non-relational DynamoDB, remember it's fully flexible NoSQL managed DB. It's fast. It provide, as I mentioned, gaming, social media, IoT related information. It's stored on SSD, and that's the reason it's so fast compared to any other non-relational database. Even the relational database in Aurora, it is the fastest one. It's spread across 3 geographically distinct data center. However, data centers are availability zone, but Amazon mentioned a 3 geographically distinct data center into their all information or FAQs. I'm sure it means the availability zone within the same region. However, they do not clarify this point, but remember they have 3 geographical region distinct center. It has two types of consistent read, eventual consistent and strong consistent. You can select eventual consistent is the default one where you update something and get the updated data after 1 second. Delay would be second. If you want less than 1 second delay, you should strong consistent read. Remember all this point. DynamoDB is faster because of SSD spread across 3 geographical region data center. My bad. Redshift warehouse, DB warehouse. So it is fully managed petabyte scale DB warehouse. Cost is very minimal. If you can understand, 0.25 US dollar per hour with no upfront commitment. You don't have to go for a reserve or commitment thing. You go based upon your uses. Price on compute nodes. So I'll explain this one. Will charge on the backup and data transfer. Okay, so if you take a backup of your Redshift data, it would be charged. If you take data transfer, it will charge. There are two types of Redshift node. One is a single node, so which is almost 160 GB of your data. Multi-node, which is also having one leader node who manage all the compute nodes. Compute node could be up to 128. So price on compute node, which I mentioned, right? So suppose you have 3 compute node running 2 hours in an entire month. So which means 3 into 2 into 30 into 24 into the rate it applies dollar $0.25. So it gets computed and then they charge. Redshift use a special compression technique. They use columnar compression technique, which means they do not compress based upon row. They compress based upon column, which is much more compressed way of keeping. They do not have index and other stuff, so that the search and data storage option is also very less. Redshift distribute data query to all nodes. So if you have large amount of query that you wanted to run, they distribute that into different node to support multiple massively parallel processing MPP. Maintain 3 copies of your data. So you understand DynamoDB and Redshift, they have this 3 geographical distinct data center, 3 copy. One, definitely your original. Second is the replica of the compute node, and third is the backup. So Redshift can replicate snapshot into other S3 region. So DynamoDB spread across 3 geographical region. Aurora, you cannot cross region replicate, however Redshift can. So read this slide clearly. This is going to help you into your exam. Try to remember this point, so all your database question should be within these things. Going to the next slide. So we discuss about self-healing, or we discuss about DR and fault tolerance part, right? But before that, try to understand what is multi-AZ, what is read replica. Definitely you're going to hit 2 to 3 questions on this pattern or more than that, not only for database but what for any of the AWS concept. So let's understand this thing and then look into that. So read replica and multi-AZ. Multi-AZ, as the name suggests, you have one or more availability zone occupied for your particular instance or DB, which ensure fault tolerance. As you see the picture below here, right? EC2 instance main DB is one availability zone, and the secondary DB is another availability zone. Whatever I'm writing, that is also getting replicated into this one, and in case this one fails, it will get connect. I'll explain that, but before that, multi-AZ is for DR, disaster recovery. It doesn't ensure performance or improve performance of your database. So you understand this thing. If anyone saying that I have a database multi-AZ turned on and I have done this thing, but people always complain that this is not available, or this is not highly available, or this is having latency, what should I do? Can I turn on multi-AZ one more region near to the user location? No, that is not going to help you. You need something else that we are going to discuss now. So Multi-AZ is for DR, it's for failover, but let's understand the read replica. Read replica is for your performance improvement. As you can see in the picture, we have one main DB and we are written into another, we are making another copy of the same DB. So you read this point, read replica is for scaling, improve your performance. So suppose you have a job portal site which often get higher number of read requests between 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. and you receive that lot of timeout requests are being happening. So what you need to distribute your user into two databases. So instead of all hitting into one DB, you are having the same copy of your DB, and that is being maintained by a separate set of groups. So 100 users are accessing your one database and another 100 is accessing your replica database, so which will improve their performance like that. Read replica allows the read only copy of the database if it is for the read heavy DB, as I mentioned, and they will often try to confuse you between the read replica and Elasticache. However, try to understand Elasticache is to improve your performance based upon frequently asked queries or based upon the web application. However, if you have to improve the overall DB performance, you need to ensure your read replication is on, right? So don't get confused with this thing what I mentioned in my previous section. So before you turn on the read replica, you have to ensure the automated backup is turned on. You can have 5 read replica of any DB. You can make read replica of a read replica. So I can create another replica from this one. However, it is going to be going to add some latency to that. Each of the read replica have their own DNS. So it will be an individual and separate entity, and the same would be connected to your main DB. So whatever you are writing to main DB would be automatically updated to read replica, and however they would be having different types of DNS. Replicas can be created same availability zone or different region also. Understand this one. So most of your performance DB related question would get resolved through the read replica. You can have it in the same AZ or different region as well. You can create read replica with multi-AZ on, and you can promote one read replica as an individual standalone database, and again you can turn on read replica on that. But if you do that, you would break that read replica from the main DB. So hope you understood read replica to improve your performance, multi-AZ to DR support. So let's quickly look into that. So EC2, my main DB got down. For some reason, automatically the failover will happen and it will go to the secondary DB. As I mentioned, but in one case you wanted to do some sort of maintenance into your primary DB, you can do a force failover as well by making by rebooting the DB, and while choosing the rebooting you have option to choose failover on secondary DB. That option also you can do. As I mentioned for the EC2, so suppose multi-AZ, this one we cannot have the same EC2 copying to though we have the 2 copies here, but we cannot make this as a option for multi-AZ. Multi-AZ is a different option that you have to turn on separately. Read replica is a different option. Hope you understand this concept. It's going to answer a lot of your queries in the question. Let's go to the next slide if we have covered this part till now. Coming back to database backup, just a point to remember, as I mentioned, if you wanted to do read replica, your DB backup has to be turned on. However, what types of backups are there for database? One, definitely automatic backup, and second is the DB snapshot. First, remember one thing, that automatic backup would be deleted if you delete the main database. However, DB snapshot would not be deleted. Now let's understand each of the points. The retention period we discussed 1 to 35 days. Backup will take a full day snapshot based upon your retention period that you choose, along with each of the transaction log, which will help you to point in time recovery. By default, automatic backup is turned on by default. You can skip though. That is your option. Backup always gets stored into S3. you will get same amount of space for your backup as your database space. So if you have 10 or 20 gigs of your database, you'll get 20 gigs space of S3 for your backup. You will not be charged for that. Backup window will make your database slow, that I have already mentioned, and will be deleted when main DB get deleted. DB snapshot is something apart from your backup part. If you wanted to do something manually, you can do that. That is called DB snapshot. It will not be deleted when you delete your database. So you can restore a snapshot and create a new DB. And as I mentioned, for availability multi-AZ option also, it will have a new DNS. So even though you backup you take a snapshot, backup snapshot, and make a new DB, it will not going to update your same DB. It will be new endpoint, a brand new DB. Hope you understand this point also. And let's go to the next section then. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. So we almost done with the theoretical part of database. Now let's have a quick look on the database services. So I am into GD Gyan and this is my landing page. And as you can see, all those database that we discussed, RDS with 6 database engine: Relational Database, DynamoDB, NoSQL Database, Elasticache, in-memory database, Amazon Redshift, data warehousing. There are other services. I don't think you need them for your solution architect exam. So let's go into RDS and let's quickly look into that, how these things are there, so that you have a little understanding on these things. Though the points I have covered in my episode, that should be sufficient for your exam or your certification. Okay friends, so we have come to the RDS creation page. You can see create database or restore Aurora DB cluster from S3. If you have a backup, then you can do that. They promote Aurora because Amazon's own product, and it's one of the finest database that AWS also can provide, or you can get it from market if you are using relational database. So we go to create DB. I will not create it fully, but I just wanted to show you the different option that coming through while creation. So standard create, easy create. So easy create, it would be just like the ELB one we mentioned, right? It would be easy navigation option. So you can create it quickly. And standard create, it will ask you a lot of information, security group, backup, maintenance. We'll go for the standard create. By default it's selected Amazon Aurora, but we have the 6 engine. We can choose any one of them. Let's select MySQL, right? So you can choose the version also, which version of MySQL you want. You can select that. And you wanted to make a production, which is a high AG, you want to dev or free tier. So I am a free tier member, so I will go for the free tier. You will give the instance name, you give the admin ID and password, I mean database ID and password, instance size. So you are basically giving, you see, you are giving one CPU. You're defining the VM size as well. So it's a serverless. We cannot say that RDS is a serverless. So that's what I wanted to come here. Storage, you can define on SSD. However, you can choose any other storage also. As we mentioned, DynamoDB is always on SSD. That's why it's so faster. So having something on SSD or provisioned IOPS SSD, it would make your DB always fast. Auto scaling, that option is there. Multi-AZ, so free tier you are not eligible for that, but it is for the fault tolerance that we already discussed. VPC is logical grouping of your things, so it is also we need to do. And database authentication, let's see what is there in additional option. So subnet group default, publicly accessible no. VPC security group, that you can choose what is your security group, right? So other than that, if we click now, it will create the DB. So I'm not going to create it now, just wanted to show you these options. Let's go back. So once your database is created, you can take snapshot. You will have the database instance here. You can data import from Oracle, all other options are here. So let's go back to other DB stuffs, right? DynamoDB and other stuffs. Yeah. So let's go back to DynamoDB. It's taking some time as I have a very poor internet connection, especially after the cyclone, and I have not received my broadband connection back. So DynamoDB, you can create it. So it's asking though create a table, but however you understand it's not like relational table. So create table. I just clicked on that. It is getting loaded. It is asking table name and one primary key name, which can be your string, binary, or number. So by default, secondary index, and it's get created. You can add tags, and you do not have to require role to enable auto scaling by default. So that we mentioned, right? So they take care of the auto scaling part in DynamoDB. Let's look into Elasticache. Database, Elasticache. So it's in-memory database. If you have too many search, especially for the e-commerce kind of a website, or somewhere where web application interacting with your DB, there if you wanted to improve the performance for the user on the frequent search parameter, you can use Elasticache. Divided into two: Redis, memcached. Memcached is the easiest one with the basic simple feature, and Redis is your advanced one with the backup, restore. All right, Redis and memcached. So backup, restore, and all other options that you have. Multi availability zone setup, auto scaling, everything. So you can click on get started now. You can choose memcached or this thing, Redis. You can give a name, security group, which subnet they will work, any zone, all those information you can make. You can give the backup. So the moment we'll select memcached, we'll see the backup and other options are not coming, right? So that's it, guys. That's what wanted to show. Okay, friends, so we are end of database part, and after this database we have three more session, episode, or lecture, however you call it. One, definitely networking basics, then two, networking advanced with the VPC load balancing on your EC2, which is going to be lot of question coming to your exam, and at the end I will just give you a summary of all the AWS services as needed for your solution architect associate exam. But before that, before we wrap up this session, let's have today's question, and let me know your answer in the comment box of my channel page, and contact me in case you have question on any of the topic that we have covered today. Thank you. Stay tuned, stay fit, happy learning.
Please like, subscribe, share. Thanks for watching.